All right, so we're recording now. So, hello everyone, I'm Mark Duggar,
And I'm Nicole Dickson.
and this is Above All Awesome with Mark and Nicole. Yay!
Uh, uh,
Okay, so now the thing you were going to say.
okay, so earlier, before we started recording, I'd mentioned to Mark that his background looks different now. I was like, whoa,
Yes,
because
I
I'm
am
used to seeing like the
somewhere different.
grandmother room that he usually stays in. Not that it looks like a grandmother room too much,
No, it
but
does. It's a horrible grandmother room.
no, well, that's
The
because you
floral.
have nothing. You have no like things, so other people's things are in the room that you're staying in. I
Yes.
recognize that. Um,
Which just means that it's a grandmother room. What's the thing?
and when you see it in the screen that I see, you're going to laugh and understand exactly what I mean right now. But
Okay.
what you look like right now is you look like you are in Luke's in Uncle
Oh,
Owen's
it's
house in
amazing!
Tatooine.
Oh!
Do you not?
That is amazing.
That
That's brilliant.
I was like, he kind of looks like he's in Uncle Owen's house. I'm expecting him to have blue juice any minute, or blue milk, or whatever the fuck that was.
Whatever weird concoction that drink was. What was that? Like you're sitting
I
there
don't
watching.
know. I just like the fact that because, they're like, well, fuck, we've got to make it look space-rific. Make it blue! Make it blue! Because, look at you drinking the dew. Very nice product placement.
Hey,
Mount is
I
paying
covered
you
up.
money for this.
I covered up the thing so
Oh,
that
sorry.
no one would see.
Then I mentioned it, because
Well, it happens.
it happens. Yeah,
But if
we
you
all.
can mention things verbally, it doesn't make it product placement.
No, really?
Well, I mean,
So
think
I
about.
could be like, God, I love Mountain Dew. I'm endorsing this product as we speak,
You can.
but I'm
Doesn't
not
count.
showing it, so it
Yep,
doesn't count.
exactly. My cousin Daniel's off to the side here making hand motions at me. He knows we're
Oh
recording,
my
so
God,
it's
it's
like
like
I should.
Dan. Oh my God, don't let him lick your feet.
What?
It's a callback to the end of our very first blog. Like very first two blogs ago, or what is this? A blog, a podcast, whatever the fuck this is. It was the callback to. Remember at the end of the thing, I was like, "Don't lick my feet," because Dan was doing like the pantomime shit
Oh yeah, yeah.
like my cousin's doing now. That's all right, Mark. Keep up.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm like a step or two
It's
behind.
because you're in Tatooine. I
It's
know.
because I'm in Tatooine. I'm busy enjoying the fact that I'm on Tatooine,
Hmm.
desert planet, which is actually fairly accurate because I'm in Arizona, which is.
Actually, no. Oh, it does make sense. Oh my God, you are in Tatooine. Holy shit. Mind blown. No, I'm serious. Dude, you're in fucking Arizona. And like, and then the house looks like it's in Tatooine. That's
Well,
weird.
that's
No,
cool.
that's weird. Like maybe they got the inspiration from Arizona abode or whatever.
That's funny.
Again, remember, wasn't it the Pueblo Indians that made the little Pueblo houses out of brown sugar, no doubt?
Rich
You do.
brown
What
sugar.
is that callback to? What?
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 Wait, was that? That's the cookie song. We haven't actually recorded that.
Oh.
That wasn't actually. That was the thing I said we should put in
It's
the
a
pod.
foreshadow, not a
Oh no, I'm losing you. Okay, I think I got you back. Yeah, we didn't actually do that one. We were just talking about the fact that we should do that. In fact,
Oh, God, yes.
I put it in our topics for one of these videos because
Because
right
we're organized and we have topics.
we are organized and we do have topics. And the yeast has probably risen enough. You can start adding things and mixing. And that
Oh, are
giant.
you making pizza dough? Because you're Mark Duggar. Have
Yeah.
you delegated the making of the pizza dough just so you could do this?
Actually, in some ways, yes. And I want to show something off here. This is pizza sauce. This is a container of pizza sauce. That is
Okay, we
all.
only see the top half of it, so I don't believe it's the full thing. Oh my God. I mean, like, I knew how big it was when it was just half of it, but seeing the whole thing is impressive. That could be taken the wrong way. But I mean,
Right.
that's amazing. Wait, it doesn't look very light. Wait, it didn't look heavy. There's no pizza sauce in there. It's a prop.
It is not a prop. This is a sealed container. And just because I make it look, think about what I do for a living and tell me that, of course, I'm not
That
going
was
to
awesome. Just because I make it look weightless doesn't mean
I'm so
I'm Mark
strong.
Duggar. I lift things for a living.
Did I tell you
You did
about...
make it weightless. I was like, whoa.
Did I tell you about the personal trainer who was in my CPR class?
You told me. I don't know if we told the blog.
I don't think we told the blog, but since we're speaking of making things look
For the
weightless...
I really want to define. It's funny. I feel like, not that we're in a relationship, but I feel like we're in that point in the relationship where we have to define what it is. I'm like, what are we? Are we a pod? Pod? There is no pod. What the fuck? Are we a podcast? Are we a blog?
It's a video blog. Right now it's a video blog, okay?
Video blog. Okay.
One of the steps that I'm going to make as we go further in this is I'll start getting just the audio out of it somehow or another, and I'll start looking at what it would take to make it a podcast.
See, I think we should coin the phrase blog personally.
You broke up there. I didn't hear it.
Oh, I said I think we should personally coin the phrase cast.
See, you broke up again. I think
the world does not want me to say this.
Yeah, clearly. It's
I think
supposed...
we should personally coin the phrase blogcast.
Okay.
Clearly, and see, now the third time it loses its charm, though.
My cousin's whispering things at me now, and I'm like, I can't quite
He
hear
can
you.
come into the frame. He could be our first guest.
You-
Although Dan was our first guest by accident. He doesn't want to?
No.
Oh, I don't want to be on that thing. You're going to put that on the YouTube.
She sounds like Kathleen Madigan.
He says you sound like Kathleen Madigan.
Who is that?
A comedian. I don't know who that is, but...
Is she funny?
Well, clearly. He says she's hilarious.
Oh, tell him thank you, if that's a compliment.
I like that. Yes, Nicole, that was a compliment.
If he's just like, well, she sounds like her, but you're a fucking idiot. I don't know. I swear a lot. I'm doing it again. I was so good the last blogcast. That's it. That's what I'm calling it. I don't care if it's right.
It's a blogcast.
That's what it is.
That's fine. You can call it that. That's perfectly
acceptable. I will. And our viewers can say what they will to me, really.
What they will. Whatever.
That's a general threat, viewer. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to get, like, hate mail and shit.
I don't know. What would you say?
So I can say whatever I want?
Daniel said, I can say whatever I want then? Clearly.
This is a free blog.
It's a free blog.
We're, whatever. We can edit, right?
Well, I can. I may have to. Okay, so since we referenced it and it wasn't in an actual blogcast, you need to tell the cookie
saga.
Yeah, because you made a reference to it, and no one will understand that without the tale. And since it was one of our suggested topics, it seems like the thing that is most relevant at the moment.
Let's do it. Let's do it then. All right. So, some of you know me because we've had like 27 viewers, so which I feel good about, by the way.
Oh, really? Have we? I haven't checked.
I think it's up there.
Oh, nice.
I know. It's up from 7. But mainly it's just our friends watching.
But that's, of course, that's
still, those of you who know us, no. But I can't cook, basically, is what it really comes down to. And in fact, a long time ago, friends of mine talked about how I would, put together a recipe. And the basic premise was, what was it? Take the Hot Pocket out of the freezer in the container, in the paper sleeve. And those were directions for me, really, and I had to follow them. So that is the level of my cooking ability. And they're right. I microwave everything. But recently, a friend of mine has introduced me to cookie baking. I'm saying it like it's a thing. To cookie baking. To baking cookies. Making cookies, whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
Baking things called cookies.
Right. And you can tell I'm such a great chef because I call it cookie baking, which isn't even a fucking word.
You should call it cookie crafting. That sounds so much better.
Cookie crafting. No,
I've become a cookie crafter.
What are those people that do those things? It has nothing to do with
The people who do the things? I love the
Shut up.
people who do the things.
No, it's scrapbooking. Scrapbooking. I sound like I'm like the baking version of scrapbooking if I say that. You know what I'm talking about?
I
Like
think so.
crafty people. People who scrapbook are crafty. I
Right.
mean, you don't scrapbook unless you do other crafts.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. I sound like the Martha Stewart of the kitchen, but I'm not at all, which is going to be evidenced by this next story.
All right. So,
Okay. So this is my third time baking cookies at this point. And my daughter was home from school, and because it was a snow day, and I woke up, and she's like, "Mommy, let's bake cookies today." And I've been trying to bake cookies for like a month at this point because I'm so embarrassed.
yeah, and you should be, but you have to tell the story. And I'm going to mock you as we do this because
As well you should. So first of all, the sheer fact that I just said the words "I've been trying to bake cookies for a month" is sad. Okay, so I bought butter, as one does at the store, and I would bring it home. And my friend, the first time we baked cookies, bought butter a day ahead of time and set it out on the counter to let it soften. And so I had been bringing butter home for about, like I said, about a month, and I'd been putting the butter on the counter to let it.
Oh no.
I would leave it there for like 4 days because I don't really think about stuff like this. So I would get to the butter like 4 or 5 days later and be like, I want to bake fuck. And then I would see the butter and it was like not congealed, but it was like it had sweat on it. And I'm not going to use sweaty butter. I don't care. So I was like,
Nicole,
and the thing is,
did you use a butter dish when you did this?
no, I just put it in the paper thing. You know, I just left it on
Well, that's one of your key problems here, but you know that you can leave it out. It's meant to be left out.
Mark, I have 2 words for you. Hot pocket. No, Mark, I did not know that. Okay. So I leave the butter out. And time and again, I would come to the butter, and the butter would be bad. Or not bad, but I think it's
But
bad.
you thought it was bad.
Right. And so I would throw it out.
Oh, no,
So
not
this
the
is-
bad butter. How do you
So this is the 3rd attempt at butter. And at this point, I brought the butter home, and I thought at this point, I was like, you know what, F this, I'm putting the butter in the fridge, and when I'm ready to bake cookies, I will take it out the day before, and I will bake the damn cookies. And that was my thought process. So I'm like, yes, Rhea, let's go bake cookies. Mommy has butter already. And so I go out to the kitchen, and sure enough, there is butter, but it's in the fridge. And so now I'm like, oh, it's cold. It's cold butter. And this daunts me, okay? I'm like, so I go to the fridge and I get the butter out and I'm looking at it and I'm like willing it to soften, but it's not working. And so I have to go to the internet at this point to figure out how to soften butter. Literally. So I go on Google and I Google the best way to soften butter. And sure enough, there's like 8 frickin' sites on how to soften butter. Because clearly I am not the only one with this problem.
Well, you know, it wouldn't be the first time somebody had thought, they used the last of the butter, and then they went in there thinking they'd put some out, and then they hadn't, and they'd be like, I need to soften the butter quickly. Yeah, no, I've had that problem before.
And so, because I knew, because I am the microwave chef that I am, I knew that you can soften butter in the microwave, but I also knew that the tendency is for the butter to melt rather than soften. And so I, with my advanced 3 times of baking, knew that putting the butter in the microwave was a no-go. And so I was like, okay, excuse me, hold on. I keep getting dinged here. Why am I getting dinged?
Well,
Yes, okay, goodbye. I'm hanging up on that person. Okay,
That's
there.
what you should.
I did. Okay, so, so the butter's so I'm Googling how to do it. And the Google thing says, cut up your butter, like, into chunks. And so I'm like, okay, I will chunk the butter. And so So I'm cutting up the butter, and I put it in a bowl, or I think I cut it in a bowl. Um, and so I was like, okay. And then it's in the bowl, and then the Google thing goes on to say, if you want the butter to soften faster, put it on top of or near the preheating oven. And I was like, that's a great idea because it's hot. So I did. I put my butter bowl on the oven, and I thought, well, this will work. And so I went and did something with Freya for like 20 minutes. Maybe I played Monster Rancher 3, which will be a blog topic someday. I came back, and it wasn't softened to my liking. Really
This
at all.
butter is not softened to my liking.
Well, no, what the thing said is you should be able to squish it in between your fingers, and I picked it up and I couldn't squish it, and I was like, well, that's not going to work.
What did you get? Rock butter? Because even cold fridge butter you could soak. What kind of force were you applying?
We're not at the rock part yet, Mark. We're getting there.
Anyway.
So no, that's all right. So I took the butter and you know what? At this point, I said, you know what? F this. I know how to cook in the microwave. I can soften butter in the microwave. And so I did. I put the butter in the microwave and I put it on for 5 seconds. Only 5 seconds because I was being judicious, or not judicious is not the word. Prudent.
Or that.
So I was being prudent, cautious. And so 5 seconds, and then I stopped and I took the butter out and it was not yet softened. And so I was like, all right, another 10 seconds. But that's it. That's all I'm doing.
And the whole time, the tension has to be like up here because you're
the tension was up here because if I melt this butter, I'm, bad.
It's done. There will be no cookies.
It's done, and there will be no cookies. So, so I put the butter in for another 10 seconds, and it softened. I mean, and I sent you a picture, and I did, people. I sent Mark a picture.
Which I was confused at. I was like,
And that was the funny thing that made me laugh and once I thought about it, is that I realized I just sent you, and it wasn't only you, it was you and Jay. So it's like a 2-person thing, which first of all is always odd. You're like, who is this other person? But then all it was, people, was a picture of softened butter in a bowl with the word success.
I remember I was sleeping. I woke up and I looked at my phone. I was like, oh, a text message. And I looked at it and I'm like, that's a bowl of melted butter. Oh, well, I guess if that's what Nicole is doing, that's what she success. All right, cool. All right, I'm going to go back to sleep.
I felt kind of bad there afterwards that there was no actual explanation about it.
No.
Then I sent you a text, but all my text said was softened butter like a boss. And you're like...
So few people use that phrase in life. I'm glad that you're one of the few.
He was like, good on you, Nicole. It's
okay.
the successes. Anyways, so the butter is successfully softened, which I was proud of, people. I'm not gonna. Clearly, I was proud of it. I sent pictures to people.
Hurdle 1 has been overcome.
Hurdle 1 has been overcome.
That ice giant is slain.
It was, and at this point, I thought we're good from here on out. And so now I'm gathering the ingredients. Again, paying attention to my internet directions because I opened the wrong end of the chocolate chips, and so I didn't have the instructions anymore.
You didn't tell me that.
I failed to mention that. So I went on the Toll House site and got their instructions, which are the same instructions. Oh. And sadly, yes, some of the more astute viewers are going, wait a minute, isn't this the 3rd time she's baked cookies and she doesn't know how to do it yet? She still needs instructions? Yes, people, I still need instructions. So I go on and I'm gathering the ingredients, and I'm like, okay, blah, 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 and flour. And I go for where the flour normally is, and there's no flour there. And I'm like, we've got to have flour. It's freaking flour. So I looked in the fridge, I looked in cabinets, I looked in places that there should be no flour, and there wasn't. Now...
Well, no, that's probably for the best, if there are places that there shouldn't be flour and there wasn't.
And it wasn't there.
Because if there had been, I would have been concerned.
Yes. So be reminded that it's it's Stormageddon outside. It's like, there's snow and sleet and ice and but my roommate had come home early because it was horrible out. and so he wasn't doing his job. And so he was home. And
It sounds a little weird when you put it like that. He wasn't doing his job. Well, it makes it sound like he had a job he was supposed to be doing, but he wasn't doing it because of the storming. As opposed to, he has work, and because of the storm, they said, we will not have work today.
kind of. Well, there was nobody in the stores where he sorry. Where he solicited. That doesn't sound good either. I don't want to say what he does, but he's not now.
This is just getting worse and worse and worse because now people might think your roommate is a whore. Just,
But no.
Which would think that a storm, so it keeps everybody indoors, that would be the perfect weather for that kind of business.
Right. He does this at Best Buy and Sam's Club. That's all I'm gonna say. And that's it. That's all I'm gonna say. It's a legitimate business.
So he's going for a niche, a niche.
Niche and a market that nobody else has tapped. No pun intended.
So anyway, okay, so he's come home.
So he's come home. And when he came through the door, by the way, this is about 20 minutes before the cookie thing happened. He was like, "Hey, by the way, you're not going anywhere today because your windshields or your wipers are frozen to your windshield. So if you need to drive anywhere, I'm driving." And I was like, "Dude, I'm not going out in this. Are you crazy?" And he was like, "Okay, I'm just saying." I was like, "All right." So lo and behold, I have no flour. Luckily, we have a large grocery store right across the street. And I mean, like, right across the street. We could have walked. But normally, if the butter thing hadn't happened, if I hadn't battled with the butter, I'd have been like, you know what? F it. I'm not making cookies. Whatever. But I went through the butter gauntlet.
You've come too far to go back now.
I have. So I was like, no, this is happening. So I go to my roommate. I'm like, "Dan, will you get me some flour from the grocery store?" And he was like, "Seriously?" And I was like, "I'm baking cookies." And he was like, "Because you're baking cookies, I will get you flour." And I was like, "Thank you." And then he's like, "Do you need anything else?" So I look at the ingredient list, scan my horizons in the kitchen, and go, "No, I have everything I need clearly in front of me. I am good to go." And he's like, "Okay." So he goes, he gets the flour in 20 minutes or whatever. I don't know why he was gone 20 minutes, but whatever. And so he comes back, he gives me the flour. And the butter has by now, been well softened. Yes. So now I'm like, okay, we got this. Got my flour, doing everything. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I know what's coming up. So I pour everything in the bowl, and just so I can prove to the readers I now know what to put in the bowl, I put 2 1/4 cups flour in the bowl. I put a teaspoon of baking soda, baking powder, a teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, a cup of sugar.
A cup?
We're gonna say a full cup of sugar.
That seems like a lot.
I think it might actually be 2 cups, but I think it's a cup. Maybe it's 3/4 cups.
What kind of cookies were you making?
Chocolate chip cookies.
I don't know why that seems like a lot of sugar to me. Anyway.
Feel free to correct me, anybody who sees this, but I'm pretty sure it's a cup. Oh, you're gonna why don't you Google it, Mark? So I know now.
Anyway, keep telling your story. I'll look this up and say something in a minute.
No, look it up. Yeah, I think it's a cup of sugar. My husband loves to cook, which is why really I don't. And so Alton Brown talks on his cooking shows about keeping your dry ingredients by themselves and your wet ingredients by themselves. And in the end, you marry them together. And so I was like, I will keep my dry ingredients together and my wet ingredients together. And so I'm doing all that. I get to the point where you need 3/4 of a cup of packed brown sugar. And so I say, okay, I have brown sugar. And so I go, is it a cup of
Well, no,
sugar.
keep going.
Okay.
I'm laughing at you right now. I haven't found it.
Gee, thanks. So I go and I get the brown sugar, and I reach for it and I bring it down, and I pull it out, and it's hard, like very hard, like brick hard. And I'm like, this is hard. And so I'm like, well, I did, no problem. And I begin to bang the brown sugar on the counter, like bam, bam, bam. And I'm thinking, it's gonna break. It's gonna no, Mark.
No.
It did not break. And I was like, seriously? Like I was flabbergasted. So there's two things of brown sugar, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Mark. There was a dark brown sugar and a light brown sugar. And I was like, well, maybe the light brown sugar has not been frozen into whatever this is. And so I go and get the light brown sugar, and it's even worse. And I was like, damn it. So then I'm like, what? I have hard brown sugar. I cannot send my roommate back out into this because, no.
Right.
And he specifically asked me, do you need anything else? And I said no. So I was like, okay. So again, remember, people, that we have gone through a gauntlet now of not only butter, but flour. And so brown sugar is not going to fucking stop me at this point. I am going to get through this hurdle. So
I just have this brief image of you holding up the shirt going, I will not be defeated by you!
pretty much I felt like when I was slamming it against the counter. So now I'm like, what the hell do I do? I briefly thought about microwaving it, but I got scared at that point. I was like, I don't know enough about brown sugar. And so I was like, okay, how do you break things that are hard? And then I thought, okay. So I went to the toolbox and I got out a claw hammer. And when you have to bring tools into the kitchen, you failed, really, at your process. But I did. I got a claw hammer, and I put the brown sugar down in its package, not in the box, but in its little plastic package or whatever it is, wax paper. And so I am fucking, and I mean pulling back and banging on this brown sugar. Well, at first I was gentle. At first I was like, oh, tap, tap. No. So then I just start wailing on the brown sugar. And it's like flicking off like little bits of, but not really. Like, I mean like microscopic tiny bits. And like the middle of the brown sugar is now like got white spots where I've been beating the crap out of it. And so I'm like, the hell? I mean, I to this day, I mean, not that it was that long ago, but to this day, I cannot believe the consistency of this fucking sugar, Mark. Like, you couldn't break it with a fucking hammer. I've known rocks. Literally, when I was a kid, we used to break rocks with hammers, which makes us sound like a little penal colony, but we did. We were bored, and we were looking for geodes or some shit. But literally, like, that's what my childhood was, breaking rocks with hammers.
All your time?
And
Are you sure that your childhood wasn't actually spent in a penal colony? You just didn't know?
No, it was fun. I don't know how
Well,
it was
they
fun.
tricked you into thinking it was fun.
It was fun. But no, didn't you? You never did that as a kid? You never, like, looked for geodes? No? Seriously, I'm the only person that did this?
You might be the only human being alive who's ever done this.
Oh my god. I want to segue into another story, but I'll wait. I'll come back to this other story. Because this story will have you pissing your pants. I swear to God. Oh my god. Wait till you hear what my sister did to me. But we're not going to go there yet. We're going to go back.
Oh, okay. Well,
We're going to go back to the cookies.
okay. So breaking rocks now.
So breaking rocks with a hammer, and no, the brown sugar was worse.
It was not yielding.
No, it was not pliable at all. And I was like, what the hell? So I'm like, now I'm getting pissed. So now I'm like, I'm not playing anymore. I'm just like, fucking break! And my daughter's like, Mommy, what's wrong? And I'm like trying, I'm just like, ah! Yes. My roommate is like, are you okay? And I'm like, fuck you! Wasn't like that. Internally I was. And so at this point, I'm like, okay, hitting the brown sugar with a hammer is clearly not working.
No.
Maybe if I hit the edge of the brown sugar, it will break off. And so I start like hammering the edge of the brown sugar. And it started to work. It started to break off. And I was like, yes! I started to get fragments, like shrapnel. And I was like, yes! And so then I'm doing this for a while and I'm getting bored at this point. And I'm like, I have an idea. I've been using the mallet side of the hammer, but if I turn it around and use the claw side, I'm going to get even better traction on this brown sugar. And so I shit you not, I turn the hammer around and I start fucking clawing at the brown sugar, like I'm hoeing it. But it does work. It's more pieces break off.
As you destroy the plastic wrapping.
I was going to say, I also start to tear the bag at this point. And so now, brown sugar is flying all over my kitchen. Like, just, and not like shrapnel pieces, but like the cloud of brown sugar. It's just, and have you ever had sugar fall in the kitchen? It's not pleasant. So I was like,
I work at a retail store and I handle all those products, and inevitably things get torn and damaged. Believe me, I've dealt with my fair share of baking materials that have ripped open and gone.
Okay, so that is my kitchen now. The brown sugar is everywhere, but I don't care because I am on a mission. So right. I finally get the brown sugar enough to where I can like get the shrapnel pieces and put them in the cup. But at this point, I had an epiphany. I was like, because I was like, how am I going to beat this with a beater thing, with the mixers? I was like, how am I going to mix this with the mixer? Because it's still hard. And I was like, damn it. So I realized at this point that we have a mortar and pestle in my house because as I said, my husband cooks. So I get down the mortar and the pestle and I take like little chunks like this big of the brown sugar and I just start grinding it. And it worked. I was like, yes! So I feel like a sort of alchemist at this point with the brown sugar, but I'm like, and I wear it down to a fine powder.
In order to prepare your brown sugar for the cookies, we must first grind it into a soft, fine powder.
And I did. And then I put it in a cup, and a measuring cup. And I did not quite get 3/4. And so I was like, damn it. And I got tired. I was done at this point. I was like, this is an hour later, mind you. I should have mentioned that.
Oh, the time hit.
So the butter is dead. And the ironic part of the entire story, Mark, is at this point, the fucking butter would have been softened.
Yes, it would have been. So now that entire first fight was for nothing, really.
Was for nothing. It was for naught. And don't think I'm not realizing this as I'm going through this saga, but still somewhat proud of myself for having softened the butter. So anyway, so I'm, mortar, pestle, whatever. Brown sugar in a cup. So then I'm like, well, okay. Oh, I had an inspiration. I was like, I bet if I watered the brown sugar, it would be less hard because water breaks stuff down.
Yes.
And so I took a chunk of the brown sugar and poured water into it, and it became sludge. And so I was like, picture, if you will, that I've got the mortar and pestle and the brown sugar sludge, and I'm still trying to break it down. It's like halfway through this process, I'm like, what am I doing? You can't break down sludge. It's sludge. And so I like feebly pour the sludge onto the dry goods at this point because I'm not really sure if sugar is wet or dry at this point. I'm just like, you know what, fuck it. The wet's gonna go in there in a minute anyways. It'll be fine. So, right. So I put and this sounds so sad. They're like, people are probably like, Jesus, that poor fucking girl. And yes. So the brown sugar goes in the dry goods. And then I add the wet, and this is the third fatal mistake in the cookie process. So I am so. Oh, my daughter, by the way, has come in during all of this. After watching me beat the brown sugar with a hammer and asking me if that's how it's done.
Oh my gosh. I imagine her going over to somebody else's house and they're like, we're going to make cookies. She's like, where's the hammer?
You can't make cookies. You don't have a hammer. How are you going to break your sugar? Yeah.
My cousin Daniel wants to ask you a question.
Out of curiosity, you sent your roommate across the street to the grocery store, right?
Yes.
They sell frozen cookie dough already.
Yeah, but that's not the same. That's not the same.
Oh, no. Because at that point, I'm not baking. And this whole point was to make cookies because it's my third time. And I was like, I can do this. I can make cookies. I did not know I would have to go through the gauntlet of baking hell to get to the finished product. Because last time it was easy. Last time it took 10 minutes. I was like, bam, 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 cookies done. And then the second time it took about 20 minutes because I didn't have my guru standing next to me, but it got done, and right. And I get fancy and shit. I add Nutella to the cookies, and if you don't think a Nutella cookie is good, you are fucking wrong because it is delicious. Yeah, I get fancy once we get to the end product. But yeah, no, and this time I made a hybrid of Nutella and chocolate chip cookies. They were delicious. Spoiler alert, the cookies came out. So.
Well, at least we know that the story ends with cookies.
At least you know the story ends well. So this is the third thing I do that is wrong. So I've got two big bowls. Thank God I have a big bowl. That's all I want to say.
Don't we all feel thankful when we have a big bowl?
I do. That was not a drug reference. Anyway.
Quick, move on. Awkward moment.
No, it was. Big bowl. Oh, chocolate chip cookie dough. Not quite yet. Big bowl of stuff, almost going to be cookies. And so I am so done at this point, Mark, that I am no longer reading the directions. And this was where the final problem came in. Because I'm just like, you know what? I got the dries, I got the wets, the ingredients are in there, but bam! And I pour the wets into the dries. Not the other way around. And so I go to mix with my electric mixer. And I'm mixing, and it's not working. And so the tongs or whatever the hell they are, become encrusted like this hard-ass dough thing. And they stop moving. So they're like, what the fuck are you doing to us? And I was like, work, damn you! And I'm like moving it around the bowl, and they're going on strike. But no, so they were like, stop. So then I remembered what my friend said. And my friend was like, when you get to that point, if your tongs start getting full or whatever, just turn the mixer on, but don't put it in the dough, and it'll all fly off and it'll be fine.
Oh God.
And so I did. And that's why I said, thank God I have a big bowl, because shrapnel dough went just flying everywhere. In the bowl though, because really at this point, if dough had gotten flown around my kitchen the way the brown sugar had, I think I would have cried. I think I would have cried right there, and that there would have been cookies. Yeah, I would have given up. The cookies would have won, but they didn't. It just flew around the bowl, and I was like, okay, good. And so then it got clean, and then I was like, okay, good. So I go back to my task, and it starts to dough itself, and I'm like, yes, dough. And then I realize as I'm doing this that it's like most of it's dough, but then there's like stuff at the bottom, like flour remnants or whatever. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why is this happening? And then I stop and I go to the directions, which clearly state to pour well, first of all, you're supposed to add the eggs separately, which I don't know why. I did not add the eggs separately. I'm sorry. And in all this, I call my friend. I forgot to mention that. So I called my friend first when the brown sugar was hard, which he did not help me with. He just laughed. Which, when you did your research telling me about the little piece of wet bread that I could have put in the thing, no, he didn't do that. And then so I called him the second time and I was like, dude, it's not, there's stuff at the bottom. And he was like, well, what did you do? And I was like, well, I poured the wets into the dries. He's like, so you didn't like pour the dries in a little bit at a time and then mix and then pour? And I was like, no. And he was like, so then, naive as I am, I'm like, is it gonna be cookie dough? Like, what did I do? And he was like,
have I royally screwed up everything?
Did I make it wrong? Because really, at this point, if I'd fucked up the cookies, because I have no more brown sugar, I'm not going through that again. So I was like, he's like, no. He's like, are the ingredients all together? I'm like, yeah. He's like, is it dough? I was like, mostly. He's like, then you're fine. And I was like, okay. He was not as harsh as I'm making him out to be. But yeah, so then I take like a spoon and I forced the dough onto the stuff.
Yield to my will.
Pretty much yield to my will. And so the dough, it became cookie dough. And then I fancy, like I said, and I added my Nutella and I added my chocolate chips. And I made 3 different kinds of cookies. I made chocolate chip cookies, Nutella cookies, 4 different kinds of cookies. I feel like 4! No, like the Spanish Inquisition. No, so I guess I made plain cookies, chocolate chip cookies, Nutella cookies, and Nutella chocolate chip cookies. Yay! Yeah, and they came out good. They were very delicious. In fact, all of them are gone now, except for the Nutella batch, because people are, I don't know, wary of the Nutella batch in my household. I'm eating them, because I love Nutella. What was I gonna say? Oh, so yeah, so the cookies got done. But I will guarantee you that the lesson that I learned from this, and all you people out there can learn it as well, is to make damn sure of your ingredients before you begin your baking task. And don't just eyeball them. Don't just eyeball them, people. Because brown sugar will be your downfall. It is
the bane.
I told you last time we talked, Mark, I was like, what the? Like, I could not believe how hard this stuff. You could make homes out of brown sugar. Which, by the way, is where we were talking earlier when I was like, he's in Tatooine, and then the Pueblo Indians or whatever. I am convinced that Pueblos were made out of brown sugar, like at least to some degree, because when you said that just now, I know you meant their homes, but you just said so it just sounded like you meant the people. So I had this image of brown sugar people going around. Oh. No, not the Indians themselves. The Pueblos, the homes that they baked in or whatever. They had this little. Did you ever have like an idea in your head, by the way, of the Pueblos, and they were kind of like Weeble Wobble houses? But not. Do you remember Weeble Wobbles?
Offhand, I do not have a mental image for that.
You are too young for Weeble Wobbles. First of all, they had a badass song, and the song was Weebles Wobble, but they don't fall down, which was fucking cool. You'll have to look it up. I'm sure some retro site somewhere has it, and they're like, Weebles Wobble, but they don't fall down. Or
you can find anything on YouTube. I'm sure.
Yeah, but Weeble Wobbles were awesome, and they were fun to say. But when I was growing up, like, the Pueblo Indian houses to me were like Weeble Wobble houses in my head. And they were like dome-shaped, like they had dome. They probably weren't. They were probably very rectangular. But in my head, they were not. And that's why when Tatooine came up in Star Wars, I was like, Pueblos! So yeah, anyways, that's the cookie story. It's probably even longer than the pizza story.
Well, it's much longer because we're at 45 minutes now.
Oh God,
With all of our preamble and then that. So that story being told, I think that will be the end of this particular episode.
I'm so sorry, everyone. Mark managed to tell you an entire epic dream in 10 minutes, and it took me 45 to tell the cookie
Well,
story.
to be fair, I interjected a time, so.
Okay.
So
it wasn't like just me.
Alrighty.
So yeah, but next time I'll bake something again, and I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Yay! I look forward to that adventure.
I'm sure you do, Mark. I'm sure you do.
So, all right. Well, goodbye, everybody. See you next time.
See you next time.